Hello, welcome. This is Rob and failedmuso.com. Thought I would just do a quick live introduction, as I tend to do when I get a new toy. Got sent this recently from UVI, from my very good friends at UVI, who are not only very generous but also very skilled and very clever, because they keep coming up with cool shit. So just have a sip. Right, so Synth Anthology 2. As the name suggests, it is a sequel to Synth Anthology 1, or Synths Anthology. It wasn't called Synth Anthology 1, it was just Synths Anthology. But this is now Synth Anthology, which is a bit of a mouthful, especially if you had a little bit to drink. But anyway, so this is a new library based on classic synthesizers, as the name suggests, and there's a fucking load of them. It's over 2,500 patches, presets, something 20-odd thousand samples used in here. It rolls in at around, I think it's about 7.7 gig download, and then expanded 8.6 gig, I think, once you've expanded it. But the sample content is all FLAC, lossless. So when it's expanded within the instrument itself, within Falcon or UVI Workstation, it takes up, fully expanded, is about 16 gigabytes. So just to give you some idea of the size and the quality. Let's show you what it is. So you got this interface here, which is fairly new. Certainly a new way of doing things compared to before. So if you're familiar with any of the other UVI libraries, particularly the vintage synth ones, you'll know that the user interface usually is a hat tip to the original instrument that it was sampled from, or that it's emulating or whatever. Synth Anthology 2 goes for a very basic front end, very simple, but plenty of options here. It's a nice little scripted front end. So the first thing you notice is that you've got these tabs down the left hand side. Then over on the right hand side you've got this green panel, which is your main instrument oscillator, shall we say, and then you have this sub oscillator that you can then add in to give a bit of oomph underneath the original. And then underneath here, you've got the regular kind of controls that UVI put in pretty much as standard. So you have your amp envelope. There's you can have velocity settings and velocity attack connected to that. You've got your filters, different types: high pass, band pass, low pass. And then you've got your filter settings there. Then you've got sub settings, and obviously green relates to this main oscillator, and the orange relates to the sub oscillator, so you can control both of those. Then you've got the edit page, so you can adjust pitch, stereo. So it's the usual kind of UVI offering, with color and detune, unison, alternate, and no stereo. And then you can adjust the spread, pitch. You can mess around with stick it into mono if you want. Mod wheel assignments, so vibrato, tremolo, filter, or overdrive, so you can choose which one of those your mod wheel corresponds to. And then you've got the same settings here for the sub. Then you've got a step sequencer. Again, this is something that you can draw in your steps, and the taller the bar, the higher the velocity. No bar means no trigger. You can adjust the number of steps, so for example, you can go up to 16 steps here. Speed, delay, rise, and smoothing. And then there's modulation here for both the oscillators as well. LFO, so you have the LFO page here where you can adjust the speed, the shape of the waveform, whether it's synced or not, and then triggering legato, and again you can separate that out between the oscillators. And then you've got effects, so you've got bit crusher and overdrive, and you'll also notice that they've built in Chorus and Spark Verb, which are their two standalone chorus and reverb plugins, and they've built in that code within this instrument. So whilst you don't get the full functionality of each engine, you certainly don't get the front ends that you get with those engines. You get the quality of the plugin in there as well, so you can add some good quality chorus reverb, and of course there's this phaser as well, and delay. Finally, arpeggiators. Again, this is something that's pretty common on UVI, so you've got main and sub arpeggiation. So that's nice that you can arpeggiate both oscillators independently. Bottom left hand corner, overall volume control. So that's it really, that's the front end. How about the sounds? Well, as I said, there is a metric ton of stuff in here. By the way, I'm conscious that I'm not looking at comments here. I don't know if anybody is commenting, but the thing is, I just need, I'll tell you what, I'll see if I can do this. And then, I see Neil's watching, good on you, mate. If I move that over here, and then I can just drop that on top there, and I can see if anybody's chatting. So there we go, that's right. Okay, so if you want to communicate with me, do so via the YouTube live chat, and that way I can see what's going on. Right. Okie dokie. So I often get accused and told off in my video demos and reviews that I talk too much, and yes, maybe I do. I like talking, but let's hear some of this stuff. And I'm literally scratching the surface here. I only got this recently. I haven't really touched this in any great depth, so there's stuff in here I've not even heard. Right, so the premise behind Synth Anthology is they've sampled 77 different hardware synths and then created over 2,500 patches. So as you can see here in the main window, you've got the synth that was sampled for this particular patch. So if I go in, if I go and choose a sound, so I load this one up. This is an Oberheim Matrix 6. There's an Oberheim OBX. There are 77 different instruments, and every time you select a patch, you'll get. So here's an Akai AX80. Which is nice to see in there. And actually, that's one thing I wanted to mention. The list of instruments that has been employed to use here are not your typical sampled classic synths. UVI have always kind of gone a little bit outside of the box, which is why I really like them, because it's not the same as everyone else. Now, yeah, all right, so there's a Roland Jupiter 8 that they've sampled here. And as I said before, there's an Oberheim Matrix. And really, there's just a ton of stuff. And, you know, the odd ones are there. You know, the Juno 106. The Juno 60. JP4. else have we got in here? Oh yes, this is the COBOL. There are some odd ones that you just not normally see in this kind of library. Here's a lovely MS-20. And what else have we got here? Memory Moog. Mini Moog. And I could go on. Now, how are these sounds categorized? That's always an interesting thing. And my first impression of this was, oh look, 10 folders, and they've labelled them classic analog, modern analog, analog modelling, FM informant, wavetable. So you get an idea of the sounds that you're kind of looking for. And then within each of those, you've got subcategories. So in the classic analog category, you've got atmosphere, ethereal, bass, bells, flutes, effects, guitars, so on and so forth. So you can get, if you're looking for a classic analog lead sound, open up the classic analog, open up the leads, and you're going to have this list here, this big long list of lead sounds that are from analog synths. Here's another one called PS3200. How often do you see that in a sample library of classic synths? Arp Quadra. Anyway, so you can see that lots of patches, and you'll see that all the patch names have a prefix. So the prefix will give you the clue as to which instrument it comes from, and you very quickly learn which is which. So MTX is Matrix 6. MTX, I guess, is short for Matrix. ODY is Arp Odyssey. PS is the Prophet 5, or sorry, P5, because my glasses is that P5 or P? It's P5, yeah. Anyway, 27-inch screen, sitting a bit far away from it. Anyway, so you get the idea. So if you're looking for a lead sound that's from a classic analog synthesizer, it's pretty easy to kind of get what you want. And then, if you go to the modern analog folder, again, you get the same categories. They might not all be the same. They might not all be there because there might not be, for example, here in the modern analog section, there isn't a guitar-like folder because I guess there's no guitar-like patches in there. But you've got things that exploit the built-in arpeggiator as standard. So there's an Alesis Andromeda in here, which is very nice. These are short sequences. Studio Electronics Boomstar. I mean, this stuff is... You don't see that stuff in most sample libraries. Here's an interesting one. Korg Minilog. This thing's only been out 6 months, hasn't it? So you've already got a sample library here that is sampling from very new synthesizers as well as very old synthesizers. DSI Prophet 6. Now, this brings me on to the point of copyright, I guess. If these are direct samples of presets, then that's not a good thing, but I don't think these are. Now, I can't tell because I don't own a Prophet 6. I don't own a Studio Electronics Boomstar 5089. So I can't compare. I can't sort of say, oh yeah, that's definitely that preset. But there is nothing wrong and nothing illegal about sampling an instrument and creating a new patch from that sample. That's perfectly legitimate. You can do that and get away with it. The fact that UVI are actually saying right here, right in the front of your face, this is from a DSI Prophet 6, or this is from an Oberheim OB6, or this is from whatever it might be. What's this WPU here? Waldorf Pulse. Meterish, isn't it? Anyway, so I don't know if I'm guessing that the UVI team have cleared this, made sure that they're not going to get taken to court. I know that there was a spot of bother with a previous sample library, I think it was Digital Sensations, where a certain company questioned the legality of what they were doing, and the product was I believe it was removed from sale for a short period and then put back on sale. So I guess things were sorted out. But it kind of, I'm guessing that this is legitimate. I don't think a company like UVI would start to market something that was going to break the law. So yeah, there you go. Lots and lots of stuff. Now, my first quibble with this was that I saw that there was an Alesis Fusion sampled within this instrument, and I have a kind of close connection with the Alesis Fusion, having worked on the sound library for it and also the built-in drum patterns. So I did a bunch of work, freelanced via Steve Howell of Hollow Sun, who was working for Alesis at the time. And so I'm very attached to the Fusion. I still have my Fusion. It sits in the corner of my studio. It doesn't get used at all anymore because it's just so much hassle to kind of switch a hardware synth on and bring it into the computer. I could just do it all in software now. So I was kind of interested to see an Alesis Fusion in here. So one of the first things that I wanted to do when I got this library installed was, let's go and find those Fusion sounds, because there's a lot of those I'll remember. And I wanted to see whether they had directly copied or whether they had just sampled and created their own patches. Because, of course, the Alesis Fusion wasn't just a sampling keyboard. It was a virtual analog, a very, very good virtual analog synth. It also had modelling on there. It had FM on there. So there was loads of different engines on there. So you can create some wonderful things on there. It's a vastly underrated synth. And if you can ever pick one up secondhand, you should, because it'll be a good price, because it's just not that popular. Get over the styling of it, and once you get inside, it's brilliant. Anyway, so I digress. Wanted to see where the Fusion. So I'm thinking, well, where do I find all the Fusion sounds? And that's the thing, you can't. You have to go and dig in and go to a particular section. So I know, because I looked earlier, that if I look under PCM Synth, that somewhere in here, there we go, FUS. So there's the Alesis, and that's the only way you can do it, is to literally sift through by type and guess. There is a patch list, a PDF file that you can probably scan through a lot quicker than opening and closing folders in the instrument browser. But I would have liked a folder here where it's categorized by synthesizer. So if I want to go and have a look at all the Fusion sounds, that's where I go. But is that just me? I don't know. So that sounds very familiar. So I'd like to, what I need to do, I think maybe if I do a proper review, is fire up the original Fusion and go through, because I can do a direct comparison. But how cool is it the Alesis Fusion has been sampled into here, because it is this vastly underrated synth, and something like this might actually encourage someone to go out and buy a real one, because they hear some of this stuff in here and it's very good. But there are there's Korg Tritons in here. What else we got here? Roland JD 800. That kind of plucky metallic. So yeah, you got your usual suspects in here. I mean, if you go to the FM Informant folder, this is I have a thing about FM synths. I like them, which upsets people like Mr. Mark Doty. Bless him, he doesn't like them. Oh, well, he's not a massive fan. He might be watching. I doubt it. Anyway, so I did notice that not only have they got a DX7 sampled in here, but they've also got some of the other classic FM synths that aren't always spoken about. So yeah, you've got a DX7. You've also got a DX100. You've got the Yamaha FS1R, which is the pinnacle of FM synthesis, in my humble opinion. Again, another module that if you can get hold of at a good price, buy it and never ever let it go, because it is one of the most wonderful synthesizers in the world that has one of the worst interfaces in the world, because as you can see in the picture here, it's a 1U rack mount. And God, if this had been, if the insides of the FS1R had been put into a proper full-bodied synth, it would have, I don't know, well, I think it was just a bad time for it to get released. Everything was going modular or software, and yeah, it was a shame. But seriously, I worked again with Steve Howell at Hollow Sun, and we sampled an FS1R. We actually, a guy called Martin Bouter, who's a Dutch brilliant musician, Dutch musician, currently very big in the hardstyle scene. I don't know what, I couldn't tell you what hardstyle was, but he tells me he's big in the hardstyle scene. But he had one of these, and he let us sample it. He let us borrow it for ages, and we sampled the crap out of it and put it into various things. Created a whole library called Nebulae, based on the FS1R, because not only does it do your typical FM stuff, but it also does massive, lush, evolving pads, and it's got a formant filter built in as well. So it just adds a whole other dimension. It's a fantastic thing. Anyway, so yeah, that's in here, and there's lots of FS1R patches in here, which is really good, because again, it's one of those sort of neglected synths. Synclavier 2, which is not surprising because of UVI's Synclavier sample library. Korg DS8 is in there as well. So yeah, there's lots of FM stuff, and of course, if you go to the Bells folder, well, yeah, it's going to be full of wonderful things. What else? We've got the Elka EK44. You see, you don't think of that when you think of FM, but of course, the FM concept was licensed into all sorts of synthesizers. There is, I believe, there's an SY in here, an SY22. I can't remember what the prefix for that is, but yeah, that's in here. You got, as I said, Synclavier, and so on and so forth. And there are some wonderful, wonderful sounds. Let me just find the, here we go, Vox Choirs. So this is the FS1R formant choir. So yeah, it had this great formant thing in there. I'll just say hi to Spectral Joe, who's just said hi in the chat room, and to Osiris. Osiris in the chat room says, beats all the samey VST synth instruments, as these are actually sampled. Yeah, that's a good, it's an interesting argument, that, and one that I've had with other people about the UVI libraries, because they are sampled. These are not software modeled replications. These are just sample libraries, but they're done so very, very well. And some might argue that the a lot of the modelled software synths. I'm not going to mention any names or brands, but there are plenty of people that say they're not really anything like the originals. So these are actually samples from the originals. So some might say these are more authentic. I don't know. So I'm having a sip of my beer here because it's thirsty work. So lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff, and I could spend ages going through this. And I really do wish that they had categorized by instrument, because that would have made things quite a lot easier. So yeah, Korg wave stations in here. And I'm a massive wave station. I mean, I've got the VST of the wave station and the M1, and the M1's in here as well in bucket loads. Prophet VS as well. That's in here. So yeah, lots of things. And again, all of this is, there's the SY22. All of this categorized by kind of sound type within synthesis type, if that makes sense. So lots of really, really good things. You've even got in the samplers section, again, one of the first things I looked for, what's it got in here in terms of samplers. So you got your emulator too. Now listen, I'm hearing about 3 or 4 different emulator patches in there. So it looks like what they've done, and I haven't got this confirmed, but it does look like they've gone and created a whole bunch of new kind of presets from using these original instruments as their base. And yes, there's a Fairlight in here, and yes, if you want that voice. Oh, hey, look at that. How cool is that? Falcon's just crashed on me. Now that doesn't happen very often, and I can only imagine it doesn't like me streaming. Yeah, Falcon didn't half quit unexpectedly. By the way, if anybody is interested in UVI Falcon, highly recommend it, even though you've just witnessed it crash on me there. Let me just line that up again, because that's all gone to pot. There we go. Right. So, no, I don't want to exit. Go away. Ha. Where were we? Synth Anthology 2. There we go. So yeah, Fairlight. Yeah, there's all the Fair. Not I say all the Fair. There's a bunch of Fairlight stuff in there, and not a lot of repetition of the patches that you find in the individual library. So UVI do a library called Darklight 2, which is their Fairlight based library, and it's a very good library. But there's not a huge amount of replication here. This does seem to do what it says on the tin. It's an anthology. It's a kind of a greatest hits plus loads more. So if you imagine like that Supertramp anthology a few years ago, it's all their greatest hits plus some classic album tracks and other bits and bobs in there. So it's pretty good. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. And all categorized pretty well. But like I said, I really would have loved to have had would have loved to have had everything categorized by instrument as well, and that can only, that can't be a massively difficult thing to do. I don't think, because it's just categorization. So it might be that it appears in an updated version. I'm certainly going to pass that feedback on to UVI once I've had a proper look through here. But yeah, lots of very interesting sounds. Again, it's one of those libraries that you could pretty much just sit in all day, and you probably wouldn't need to move elsewhere unless you were specifically looking for anything that wasn't a synth. There is so much in here. Even if you go into the analog modeling section, you start to get into things like Novation, Nova. They've also got lots of Yamaha AM1X patches. Synthwave artist just like that, couldn't I? What else have we got in here instrument wise? So we've got let's say Novation Nova, Virus C, and Waldorf Q, so that's just the Atmosphere Ethereal. What have we got in pads? Do like me pads. So yeah, lots of AM1X stuff. And now I can kind of have one, and it's done it again. Blimey, look at that. That's embarrassing. Anyway, I wonder what it really hasn't done. The Falcon has been incredibly reliable for me. Although, to be fair, I haven't used it much since they updated to 1.2, so maybe that's got something to do with it. Anyway, shan't dwell on that. Hopefully it won't crash. It's not like I'm running it on a pretty good machine here, so I think maybe it's just something to do with the streaming. It doesn't particularly play well with the streaming. Anyway, where were we? We were we don't. Yes, it was analog modeling. So pads. What else have we got in here? Instrument wise, Access Virus C, Novation Nova, Ultranova, in the lead section, Clavier Nord lead, more Waldorf, more Novation, more AM1X, box. Yeah, so you kind of get the idea. Once you start picking through, you start finding, or kind of preempting where you'll find certain instruments. But I still wish they'd done that. And see, folder 10, they've sorted by category. So rather than sort by synthesis type then category, you've just got the category. So if you're looking for a guitar-like sound, then you've got guitar-like sounds in these 5 different sections. So you've got classic analog, analog modeling, FM informant, PCM synth, and samplers. So let's have a look here. So this is kind of a plucky guitar sound. Again, sounds very familiar from the Fusion. And let's dip into the Arpeggiator. Turn the Arpeggiator on. Which is nice. Now let's turn the sub on, and we'll need to turn the sub on here as well. So let's just hear what the sub is on its own. And this is a really, really nice touch, because it just gives you that little bit something extra to mess around with, and it's dead simple to do. You can kind of really change the sound of something, or just give it an edge. So take the sub off. It's nice, that's nice, but put the sub on. And it just gives it this really nice kind of bottom end, and you can change the quality. And of course, you can blend it with the volume. You can change the pan on it as well, and you can arpeggiate it separately. And you can have the sub arpeggiation, as you can see here. It's an 8-step arpeggiation. The height of the bar is the velocity of the note in that arpeggiation, and you can have a completely independent arpeggiation of the sub oscillator than you can with the main oscillator. And you can do, as you can see here, the main oscillator is going up and the sub oscillator goes down, and you can have different steps, and you can change the gate and the speed settings independently. So it gives you some quite cool controls. And you can just draw this stuff in. You can lock various steps in so that you keep that kind of structure that you like. Good fun, it really is. And then of course you've got your effects. So let's have a play around with this live, shall we? There we go. Instant fun. LFO, so you can, so I said before, you can adjust the LFO shape and speed and synchronization of both, and you can change the modulation of both the sub and the main oscillators. So yeah, first impressions. Given that they've done a lot of synthesizer sample libraries, and they have done, I mean, let's have a look through the sound banks that we've got here. So, you know, Cameo was your Casio software sample library. Then you've got Apollo, which was the Moog Apollo. You've got Synth Anthology, we've already done. Electro Suite, which is kind of just a general thing. You've got the CSM, you've got Darklight, you've got Digital Sensations, which is like an M1 and a bunch of just digital synths, Korg and Roland stuff. You've got Emulation 1 and 2, the emulators. You've got the Synergy thing called Energy, FMX1, which is a DX1, Chroma, which is the Rhodes Chroma, Mellotron Synthox, which is a Synthex. You've got Beast, which is a Synclavier, and you've got the U1250, which is a Kurzweil K200, and other bits. You've got the UVX 10P, the UVX 3P, which is the JX stuff from Roland, Ultra Mini, which is a Mini Moog. You've got the Vector Pro, which is all your Prophet VS and stuff like that. You've got Wave Runner, which is your Waldorf and PPG stuff, and then Waveframe, which is the vintage kind of sampler stuff. They've done a lot, but what I really like about this is that this is just like a real kind of greatest hits and then some, and it is categorized by sound type rather than instrument type, so it does kind of push you to just look for a sound that you want rather than an instrument you want. And maybe that's kind of going against the argument I was making earlier about wanting to look for stuff by synth. Maybe that's why they've done it, I don't know. But I like the simplicity of this. Always like the simplicity of the UVI stuff, and that's not to say it's not deep. It is. You can really get into the sounds and mess around and come up with something that's quite unique, especially if you're using it with something like UVI Falcon, or even with the free UVI workstation. You can start building layers up and doing lots of different things with it. So it's very cool, and I like it. I think maybe what I'd like to see is this, this main section here where you've got the actual image of the instrument. Maybe you could click there and just search for sounds by instrument type. I guess if you're familiar with a particular instrument, that might be a useful thing. But other than that, I mean, the layout of, again, this is a typical UVI thing. All the features and the settings, these are pretty standard for UVI sample libraries. They seem to have struck a level of consistency here, and it seems to work, and so they've kept it. They've not messed around with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But what they do is they give it a nice front end. My only thing with this, and it's always been a thing with me, I like a big screen. So I'm using a 27-inch monitor here. I've got a 27-inch screen, and although you're seeing a blown up portion of it, I don't sit that far away from my screen, and I do need to wear glasses, and I'm wearing them now. But I would just like to see something a bit bigger than this, because I can let me just do this so that you can see exactly what I'm seeing. Let me just do this. How do I... Oh, that's it. Snap it to that. So this is my full screen. So now you're seeing exactly what I'm seeing. Let me get rid of that. So I like to work full screen, and if I bump this up to full screen, it goes full screen. It's lovely, but this bit here, the main, scripted interface, stays the same. And on a 27-inch screen, that is about 1/10 of the screen, 1/9, 1/10 of the screen. I want more. Give me more. So yeah, that might be my only quibble with their interfaces. But other than that, it's not a massive thing. And I guess if you're working in an environment and you might have this squished down to that size, because you might be running a bunch of other plugins and you want to see those too. But then, one of the beautiful things about the Mac is that I've got multiple desktops that I can quickly swipe between, so I don't necessarily have to have things small to cram things on. I can just dump things onto different desktops and just immediately go over to them with a bit of a swipe. So yeah, so that's my first kind of impressions with Synth Anthology 2 from UVI. It's available now, uvi.net, and if you get it between now and November 14th, so you've got literally 1 week to go, you can get it with a third off. It's normally $149.99, which I think is actually a very good price, considering some of the prices of their other libraries. That's a very good price. But between now and the 14th of November, it's $99.99 US or €99.99 Euro. And I guess the way things are going at the moment with currencies, that's pretty much same. You're not, you might get, pound sterling is going to be a little bit less than that, but nothing major. Another mouthful a bit. So there you go. First impressions: big, useful, varied, lots of new stuff in there that they've never had in any of their things, in any of their libraries. Check out the Synth Anthology 2 page on uvi.net, and it lists everything. And there's a downloadable manual there that you can have a look at to see exactly what all the screens do, and all the patches are listed there, and all the instruments that they've sampled from are listed there too. In the chat room, Spectral Joe says, I see you have the Mac 5 Biosphere library. How is it? Let's go off on one. Why not? Yes, I have the Biosphere library, and I really like it. But then, I always did like the Mac 5, which of course is what kind of Falcon is on steroids. Unfortunately, Mac 5 seems to have become abandonware, which is a shame. But on the other hand, it's good, because it means that UVI now pretty much have the what's the word? I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. They have the high ground with Falcon, basically. Falcon is essentially, although they won't tell you as such, it is essentially Mac 5 4, should we say. It's all that Mac 5 3 was, and then some. And it's an incredible instrument. It really is worth getting. And of course, all the UVI libraries work with it natively. So yeah, Mac 5 Biosphere, which came with Mac 5 3, is a big collection of stuff. And there's some really good sounds in here, but of course it doesn't have a scripted front end. It really is just patches, but there's a lot of this kind of evolving textural stuff. I mean, yeah, you can see how much there is in just that category of atmospheres. But of course, with Falcon, again, you could do this with Mac 5. You choose a patch like this, but you can go into the Edit tab, and then you've got all your oscillators are here, and you can mess around with those individually and mess, How's that for evolving? Still going. Nice, that, like that. But yeah, there's lots of, if you're into ambient kind of stuff, or stuff that evolves, that involves evolving stuff, maybe soundtracks, that kind of thing. It's a cracking library for that. But it's also got some really good So this is like using the 3 oscillator, or using 3 out of the 8 analog modeling oscillators. But that's just a start point. If you want to turn on and use and instantly, you've got actually I preferred it with that noise in there. Yeah, you can stack up to 8 of those. You can use any of this stuff as a starting block within Falcon. Very, very powerful tool, in my humble opinion. So yeah, Mac 5 Biosphere, really like it. Lots of potential. Big library. But I don't think you can buy it individually. Or can you? I can't remember now. I might be wrong. It's been a while since I checked out Motu stuff, because Mac 5 got abandoned. The last update was 2 years ago, I believe. And then UVI came out of Falcon last year, and Motu didn't do anything. They didn't say anything. They didn't respond to anything. I've bombarded them with emails and messages on Twitter and things, and none of my questions get answered. It's almost like, we don't want to know. It's gone, so they're just going to leave it as it is. That said, if you can pick up a copy of Mac 5 and you can get it for a bargain price, it's well worth having, because it's got a lot of what Falcon's got, but Falcon just, it's pumped full of steroids, and it gives you a little bit extra. Actually gives you a whole lot extra. So yeah. Spectral Joe says you can still buy it on Big Fish Audio. There you go. So yeah, get it, because it's worth it. I don't know how much it is now individually, but definitely worth the investment, whatever it might be. But yes, it's full of it's full of that kind of stuff. And yeah, and because there was a whole bunch of other things that you got with Mac 5, so that was one. I can't remember what the others were now, it's been so long. Telematic. Actually, these guys, Acoustic Samples, the name of the company that is, that do this stuff. This will take a little while to load, because it's, as you can see, there's like nearly 4,000 key groups in this thing. But it's one of the best sampled electric guitars I've heard. And I've heard a few. They also do Sunbird as well, and some pianos and drums. I'm actually looking to get their drum kits, because I've just bought myself a new electronic drum kit. And so I'm looking to hook the laptop up with it and use some really nice sampled drum kits on there. But we're definitely going off on a tangent here, aren't we? Who cares? It's 10 on a Monday night. We sit here, the world, on the precipice of, well, I don't know what, due to what's happening across the water. It'll be an interesting day or so, as the American people go to vote. Actually, I work for an American company, my day job, and I had a meeting today, online meeting with a bunch of guys in the States, and I joined the call, and there's, "Hey Rob, how you doing?" I said, I'm very good. How are you? "Oh, we're fine here. What are you up to?" And I was like, "Well, I'm just sat here watching what you guys are going to do." And it all went very quiet, as if to say, we're not going to go there, which is interesting. But we shall see. Anyway, politics. So, these are great. So, what I love about this is a wonderful scripted front end. So you can see here we've got these zones on the keyboard. And so you've got these 4 zones here, which if you hit them, it's not really doing much, but you hold down a chord here, and there's your strumming, and there's your muting. See, that sounds like you're pressing your keys on the fretboard, which you technically are. Anyway, and then you've also got these. And then there's all sorts of different things you can do. There's some wonderful kind of things that you can do with patterns and stuff. Great fun. I mean, for somebody that cannot play guitar for love nor money, when you get something like this, and it's just brilliant. And of course, yeah, I mean, this is an electric guitar, and you can stick a bit of, and then start getting. Great fun. Anyway, I'm going off on one there. Spectral Joe in the chat room says, "I've bought Falcon mainly because of you and Simon Stockhausen." Well, that's great. Please tell the guys at UVI, because they do like to know that they're getting their money's worth. So if you ever speak to the guys at UVI, whatever it might be, just say, "Hey, I bought your product because I watched Failed Muso's videos, and he's really cool. Give him more to do." So yeah, anyway, do I know about Falcontinuum? No, I don't. I don't know what that is. Do I need to Google that? Let's see if I can do that here. Falcontinuum. Sounds interesting. The unofficial knowledge base and forum for UVI's Falcon. No, I did not know that, and I'm very happy to have found that, because I've not really been using it much lately, because I've not been doing much music at all, much to my disappointment, although that's going to change. I'm getting back into playing drums again, but I've been away because I've been so damn busy. So with a day job and other things. So that's interesting. So okay, very good. Tutorials, yeah. See, you need tutorials with Falcon because it is so powerful, and that's nice. It's kind of collected everything up. Very nice. Oh, I like that. And it's got a forum as well. Oh, I'll have to join that. Do like a good forum. Yeah, excellent. Thank you for the heads up on that Spectral Joe. I don't know it. I didn't know it. I do now. So that's cool. Thank you. But yeah, as I said, I've not been doing much on the musical front of late. So I hope to change that in some respects with getting back into drums. And actually, I might as well say this now. I mean, there's not many of you watching, but there will be another live broadcast this Sunday afternoon around 3:30 p.m. UK time, when me and a couple of guys who haven't played music together for 25, maybe more years, we're going to be doing it. We're going to do it live on Facebook or YouTube or whatever it might be. That'll be fun. Stick around, have a laugh at our expense. Anyway, I think I'm going to call it a day. But yeah, that was just my the most part of this was my exploration of the Synth Anthology 2. That's another thing I wanted to mention, is the lightweight footprint of a lot of this stuff. It loads dead quick. I know that I've got a pretty powerful machine, but it's loading patches almost instantly. And yeah, it's very good. Like it a lot. So yeah, Synth Anthology 2, it's out now. UVI.net, $99.99 until the 14th of November, when it then goes back up to $149.99, which is still, I think, in my opinion, a pretty damn good price for a library that gives you over 2,500 patches, 20,000 plus samples, and all very neatly arranged and all done in a very lovely, simple and creative way. So yeah, that's it from me, guys. Thank you ever so much for watching, those that have been watching, and hope you enjoyed, and come back for more. I might do another one of these. What I need to do is schedule them, I think, and then promote them a bit more. At the moment, I'm just kind of doing them, and nobody's really knowing that I'm doing them, so there's not many people watching. As you can see, there's only a couple of you now. Thank you for sticking around. It's much appreciated. Okay, thank you, and